Is this deck the answer to OP15? Hello and welcome to the table, and today I'm back with another One Piece deck tech video. Today talking about my boy Luffy. This guy is super fun. Out of every Luffy deck, this is the most fun Luffy deck, and just maybe the deck that will answer the OP15 meta. So, what does this Luffy do? Well, it's a 6k, 3 life, blue-purple leader that at the start of your turn, permitting you have 8 or more Dawn on your field, you get to look at the top 5 of your deck, reveal a Straw Hat type card, add it to your hand, and then put the rest of the bottom, top or bottom of your deck in any order. So you can stack the top of your deck, that's pretty nice. Stack what you draw after the start of turn effect, and, do some pretty funky stuff. So you're kinda, if you could probably already see the game plan of this deck. Ramp, 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 and end game. Have a gigantically powerful end game. And, well, let's dive right into that. Starting off with the first thing I said that this deck wants to do, which is ramp. And ramp, and ramp. So this deck wants to go second, primarily go second. And if it does go first, you want to triple ramp. You want to have 3 cards. You want to play 3 cards that help you ramp. If you're wanting to go second, or if you go second, you only need to worry about 2 cards that ramp. But let's go over all the ramp cards. The first one being Zoro, which is a 3-cost 4k, 1k counter body that when attacking, if you have 3 or less life, which you always do, you ramp an active Dawn. That's pretty cool. That's pretty nice. It's to die for 3-cost main event, ramps an active. If your opponent has a 6k or higher body, you ramp another active, triggers ramp an active. So basically a 3-cost immediate ramp active versus Zoro. You have to wait a little bit. Might be a little bit better because you can ramp multiple times, or at least, maybe force the opponent to attack into this card being an effectively blocker. But, against decks like Green Zoro from OP12, this card isn't going to last very long, so it's not as valuable, in my opinion, as it's to die for. But, primarily, if you are going second, the card that you want to play on turn 2, your ramp piece, you want to play Bon Clay. A 4-cost 1k, 1k counter body that on play ramps an active. When attacking, becomes the same power as basically the highest powered body on your opponent's board. Your opponent has a 6k on board, alright, you swing with Bon Clay, now it's a 6k. Your opponent has, a 5k on board. You swing Bon Clay, now it's a 5k. That's pretty solid, that's pretty good. Now, it doesn't copy leaders, but if your opponent has like a Kuma, for example, on board, well, that's a 7k. That's something Bon Clay can copy. But yeah, this being a 7k, or just like a 5k, 6k, 7k, whatever it may be, body that can swing at your opponent, making this also effectively a blocker because the opponent wants to swing into and kill this, and something that ramps, super nice and valuable. But you also, if you are going second, are likely going to need to use another card. A card that works very nice with all of these cards I mentioned because, except the Zoro if you're going first, but outside of that, if you're going second especially, this following card works well with all of these because you are going to ramp an active Dawn or have 1 or more Dawn left, so you could use Gear 2 to counter. But for the ramp side of it, you spend 1, then for the main effect, rest 2 more to ramp Arrested. That's fine, it's not as good as It's to Die For, it's a slightly worse version than it, but it does also counter. And unless you're using a 2k early in the game, this is the primary form of defense you have for your leader early on, because it is a 1-cost counter event that counters for 3. Only for your leader, but still pretty solid, because it can also ramp. It gives you another piece to ramp with, and you have 16 to work with early on in the game. But you want to use it to defend, because there's another card, Gum Gum Giant, the other counter event in the deck that you never use early on until you get to 10 Dawn. For reasons I'll get to later, but this card you want to keep around for as long as you can because this card's super valuable to have early in the game to help you defend. But if you are going second, well, you want to play primarily Bon Clay into Charlotte Linlin, the other card that you would really like to have as the other card you ramp with on your turn 3, because you'll be at 7 Dawn. You go from 2 to 4, then 5, ramped with Bon Clay, and now 7, use Charlotte Linlin, a 7-cost 7k, 1k counter body. Great start. On play, you draw 1, place 1 card at the top of your deck. That's actually better than you would think, I'll get to that in a bit. Then ramp an active Dawn. So you can have that 1 Dawn open, and then you'll be at 8, start your turn, you can use the Luffy effect. but you'll have 1 Dawn open, so you can use something like a Gear 2 to defend. So that's great. Great card. So if you can't already tell, you want to get to 8 Dawn on turn 4. At the start of your 4th turn, you want to be at 8 Dawn. And you want to do that via ramping 3 times if you're going first, or Bon Clay, Lin if you're going second, primarily those 2. And on top of that, this Lin on KO, you can minus a Dawn with her and gain a life. That's pretty solid because it's a 7k that your opponent doesn't really want to get rid of, which is really cool and really valuable in a lot of matchups. Now, for the more defensive side of things, especially if you're going first, let's talk about Otama. Otama here, because you need 3 cards that help you ramp instead of just 2, Otama's super nice to play if you are going first, because it is a 1-cost card that on play, if you have 3 or less life, you draw 2, trash 1, can get you a little bit deeper, get you a couple more of the ramp pieces, which can be nice. But otherwise, it counters for 2, which is really valuable. And yeah, it's not searchable. It's not a searchable 2k off the Luffy leader effect, but it's still super valuable. But you do have searchable 2ks in Usohachi, which is a 3-cost 3k, 2k counter, rest of 5 or less, which can be really nice. And in the game, you need to rest blockers or something like that. Otherwise, it's just a searchable 2k, which is perfectly fine and valuable. This card's awesome. You also have Sanji, because I think the 10k counter is nice to have. That's a nice ratio in my opinion. This Sanji, yes, it's not as good, which is why it's a 2F, but it's still a searchable 2k counter, and nichely can be a 6k blocker. That's nice. It's nothing insane, though. You also have Nami, which can be nice. It's a 5-cost 6k, 1k counter blocker that can draw 3, place 2 back at the top or bottom of your deck in any order. So it can allow you to fix the top of your deck a little bit more. It can allow you to defend a little bit easier, dig a little bit more. It's not the best card in the deck, but it can counter for one worst case scenario. It is searchable off the Luffy, and it's just a solid card in general, so it's nice to have a 4 of in the deck. But then, there's also Gum Gum Giant. So with this deck, on your 4th turn, you're gonna be at 10 that turn, but your start of your turn, you're gonna be at 8. With this Luffy effect, you'll then get to search, then you'll go up to 10, and then you'll have Gum Gum Giant you can use, because you want to have 8 Dawn, start your turn, every turn, for as many turns as possible. So on your 4th turn, if you're not at 8 Dawn, you're very likely going to be behind on tempo, so you don't use Gum Gum Giant early for that reason. On top of that, once you get to 8 Dawn and then go up to 10, this Luffy effect, you want to keep using that Luffy effect, because drawing 2 cards a turn instead of 1 is very good. So you want to use 1 Gum Gum Giant a turn, because you minus 2 Dawn to counter with it, trash a card from your hand, and yeah, you give a 4k bump to your leader or one of your characters, and then draw 2 cards, but you minus 2 Dawn, which is still big, because if you leave too many Dawn open and you got double Gum Gum Giant, well now all of a sudden, you can't use the start of turn Luffy leader effect. So you want to use this card carefully is what I'm saying. You never use it until you're at 10 Dawn, and you only get to use one of it a turn if you're at 10 Dawn. Now, obviously, you can use this ahead of time if, like, you still need to live. Just know you're going to lose a lot of tempo. But then let's talk about the big boys. Let's talk about the end game. And one card I want to talk about first is Gravity Blade Raging Tiger. Something in this deck, you want to, once you get to 8 Dawn, you want to just play as many big bodies as possible. But Gravity Blade is nice to have nichely in some matchups, because this is a 7-cost event, places 2 6-cost or lower characters at the bottom of the deck, triggers the bottom deck of 5 or less character. It's nice because you're playing against a yellow deck that has Borsalinos and Namis and all those annoying cards that are just annoying to get rid of, especially the Namis. This is nice to have to get a little bit of tempo. You really need it against those kinds of decks. Outside of that, there are just so many decks anymore that just, oh, you can't remove my stuff from the field, so you can't really interact with board, which is why this card isn't very good against most decks, especially go-wide decks anymore. But it's still nice to have as a very good tool into some matchups. If Gravity Blade, because of the fact that it's not a body, is hurting you, something that you could potentially put in instead is Kyros, which does something similar. It's also a 7-cost card, but it's a 9k body, and it returns, instead of bottom decks, a 5-cost instead of a 6-cost character. So you understand it. And only one. So yes, you develop a 9k body, but you only get to bounce one character and a 5-cost character. So yeah, that can still be a Nami or a Borsalino, but it's not as good as the Gravity Blade Raging Tiger, in my personal opinion, which is why I don't have this in the deck as a one-of instead of Gravity Blade. But getting past that, there are the other big boys in the deck, like Sanji, Luffy, and Roger. Primarily Sanji. This is the heart and soul of your endgame. Sanji here is a 9-cost card, so you'll have, if you're at 10 Dawn, 1 Dawn left to use a Gum Gum Giant for. But you play this for 9, so 9k, reveals the top of your deck. You get to play the top card of your deck so long as it costs 9 or less, and it's not Sanji. And you just get to play a 9 cost off the top of your deck that you get to stack. Thanks to Luffy, you get to stack the top of your deck. And potentially get something like a Roger on top of your deck instead of in your hand, so you can play it off the Sanji thanks to Lin Lin, which is why this card's also super good in the deck. But yeah, you stack the top of your deck with the Luffy to where you have a Sanji, and then off the Sanji you get to play a really big card, primarily Gold D Roger. An 8-cost 10k that on play, so long as either you or your opponent have 10 or more Dawn on their field, your leader gets plus 2k power until the end of your next turn. Your opponent's next turn. So your leader's an 8k for all your turn and all your opponent's next turn. And oh, by the way, you have a 10k body and a 9k body down, and 1 Dawn left to use a Gum Gum Giant. Your turn 4 is broken, basically, is what I'm telling you. And Sanji is going to be pretty easy to find because you're digging so hard for the Sanji, you're going to have a Sanji. The problem is having a Sanji and a Roger. So, if you don't have the Roger to play off the Sanji, I do alternatively have Monkey D. Luffy and Monkey D. Luffy. 1 from OP11, 2 from OP11, and 1 from OP09. The one from OP09 is not as good, but I'll get to that in a second. The one from OP11 is an 8-cost AK Rush, which is nice. AK Rush is good. And when attacking, you can trash a card from your hand, bounce a 4-cost or lower character to the owner's hand, then give a Rusted Dawn to your leader or one of your characters, including itself. So it's kind of like a 9k Rush, and it can bounce a 4 or less back, permitting you trash a card from your hand, but like still, it's a pretty solid card to play off of the Sanji. Because yeah, your leader's not going to be an 8k now, but at least you have an 8k attacker, kind of 9k attacker you can use immediately. On the flip side of things, you have Monkey D. Luffy, a 9-cost 10k that on play, you can return 1 or more Dawn from your field to your Dawn deck, draw 1, and then it gets Rush for the turn. Why is this a 1-of and the other Luffy a 2-of? Because this Luffy here, it returns a Dawn. So you go down to 9 Dawn. You have 1 Dawn left because you played Sanji into this, or just this in general. So you're at 9 Dawn. On your opponent's turn, you play something like a Gum Gum Giant. Now you're at 7 Dawn. Start your turn, before you get your 2 Dawn for the turn, Luffy sees you're at 7 Dawn, not 8, so you don't get that search. You don't get the stack, so you can't do Sanji into whatever you want, unless you stacked your deck really well. But still, it is not as good, this Luffy, because yeah, it's a 10k Rush, but it makes it impossible to play a Gum Gum Giant if you still want to get value out of your leader effect next turn. You would have to have something like a Gear 2, which only defends your leader. But yeah, this Luffy, it's still solid, which is why it's a 1-off, because it's a 10k Rush, which can really help you end and close the game. But this Luffy from OP11 is generally going to do more work. But with all that aside, I hope you all enjoyed this deck. I think the ratios for this deck are about as good as they can get right now, but expect to see this deck in the future because this deck's an absolute blast. I've been trying to build a really fun Luffy deck for a very long time, and out of all the Luffy decks I've played, this is the most fun. And let's dive right into some games and see how well this deck does. Alright, going against Nami, which realistically wants to go first. But if we're going to go first, we need triple ramp, and I know this is probably incorrect, but I'm going to go second so I get my optimal curve. And this is decent. I have, well, no, I got to mulligan that. Yep, that was the smart play. I now have these 2 cards. I have the Gravity Blade Raging Tiger, which I really need for this matchup. That's really nice to see. And I just drew a 2k. That's super nice to see. All right. And they didn't search on the first turn. That's a positive. They do obviously have the girl promo because they always do. They always have that stupid girl promo. And we're sending in 7. I mean, like, you just have to protect life early, especially against yellow decks, because you know what's going to be coming next turn. That stupid card that we all love to hate. Alright. I will play It's to Die For, gain a Dawn, as active, put a Dawn under Luffy, and I know that obviously I don't have an event, but it's nice to bluff, at least. Oh my god. That was their trigger? A freaking event? No. What'd they get? They got... God, I hate this card. I hate this card so much. Borsalino is such a stupidly broken card. It's insane. That is insane. They can't gain with it this turn, which is nice. Oh! They Hiyori. Okay. I mean, they're stacking the top of their life, which is gonna suck a lot. And Nami has 7 cards in hand, which also sucks. But, alright, they're just going 9. Nice to see. They might have been able to play something else this turn. I have no idea. But I will take it because, you know, I mean, I was bluffing anyway. So, I don't know. Maybe that was very helpful and nice. I mean, I lost life, which really sucks. But, hey, at least now the 5-cost Nami's useless. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Let's go with Linlin. Play the Linlin. Probably should have... Well, no. In case I drew a 1-cost... counter event with the Linlin, I'd like to save the Luffy attack. Let's see. Bond Clay, no. I will put this Luffy on top because next turn I don't really want to put that Luffy on top because it'll ruin Gum Gum Giant to defend with, so I'll put this card on top of the deck. Gain Active Dawn. I don't have anything to work with, but I can bluff again. And I can get a card out of the opponent's hand. Which, I mean, I get that that's not... Oh, they got rid of Borsalino. I'll take that. And I'll end the turn. So, I can bluff an event again. And the opponent could be like, oh, I'm just going to go super big again. And I know that that's not necessarily great. To just kind of tempt the opponent into going super big and then getting your life down. But they don't develop... The Nami won't develop their board. Which is pretty important because I think early Nami board states are what kill this deck. I mean, that's just most yellow decks anymore because of frickin' Borsalino and the new 5-cost Nami. And now, yep, and that card, Robin. God, this might be a bit controversial, but I think that this Robin is worse than the 5-cost Nami. I know that that's not a very popular opinion, but I think that's the case. I, honest to God, think that that is the case. Do I just grab the Giant this time? No. I'll grab a Nami. Place these on top like this. Have these 2 to draw off of a Giant that I use. The opponent still doesn't know if I have a 1-cost counter event or if I'm bluffing. I'll have this Luffy to use with the Sanji. Or play off of the Sanji. And unfortunately, my leader will not be an 8 this turn, but that is a-okay. Because I can send in 6. The opponent will trash a card from their hand because, hey, it's a free counter, kind of. And then I'll send 7, force them to use another card. I mean, I just gotta slowly grind out the resources. And I know that that's gonna take a really long time, but I don't care. And I will play... Why'd I do that? I'll play the Luffy. I mean, I guess I can do that so I can Linlin. Attack with 8 with Linlin. So, that was totally the right play. And I can bounce the young girl back to hand, actually. That's nice. Let's... I can't get rid of that Luffy. And at this point, the Gravity Blade isn't going to do much of anything, so I'll trash the Gravity Blade, bounce the young girl back to hand, give Arrested Dawn to Linlin, and see if the opponent counters for 2. They likely... Oh. I honestly thought that they would take that. They'll take this hit for sure. Yeah. And end the turn. I got 1 done up, opponent. What do you think it's going to be? Hey, it's another Robin. It's another Robin. I don't think there's any way that I win because these cards are so good. It's an 8K every single turn, which is absurd. Absurd. Alright, so Robin's coming in for 8. Is he going to be at Linlin? Okay. 8 at me. I will, in that case, counter. Return 2. Trash. I don't want to trash this Luffy. I don't. But crazily enough, I am going to give this a plus bump. And then I will resolve that attack. And let's see what we get off the top. Okay, I can Sanji and Linlin. That's not necessarily what I want to do, but it is something I can do. So I will take that. I will grab... I don't want to grab this gear 2. I want to grab counters. So I'll use that. And then I'll place on top like this. I really wish I didn't draw into these 2 cards, but off of the giant that I'll likely use next turn, but what are you going to do? And then let's send... I can bounce the girl back to hand, I guess. Darn. Let's just start with a 7 in life. The opponent will counter with a brick, maybe, and then a 1k, which is nice. And then I can Sanji into another Linlin. Attack with Luffy, giving a Rested Dawn to Luffy, send 7, after this 8, and then send 9. Alright, the opponent does counter. I will use that. Play Linlin. Not necessarily what I want. And I will just put this card back on top. Actually, no. I will keep that as a brick. Probably should have stacked it different so that the It's to Die For would be the card that I stacked on top. Let's just put a 1k on top. Gain an Active Dawn even though I can't. And then send 8. Trash. Gear 2. Give a Rested Dawn to my leader. Oh, wait. Sorry. Bouncy on girl. Give a Rested Dawn to my leader. It's an 8. The opponent has a trigger, because of course they do. Okay, actually, I'll take that, because that card isn't very good. Send 7. Do they counter? They probably do, because of course they do. What are you gonna do, opponent? What are you going to do? And then send 9 into 7. And they take that one. And it's a goddamn Rayquaza. Oh my god. I mean, I kind of expected that, honestly. Why did I think that that was going to go well? Oh my god, Borsalino. Okay, end the turn. Yeah, this is not gonna go well. I mean, I have 2 life left, which is nice. It's 3 Robins. 3 Robins. Oh my god, how? How is it 3 Robins? How is that possible? Oh my god. They're still at 4 life somehow. How is that possible? I honestly have no idea. And I'll send 8 and 8 and keep up the 6 because they're just freaking jack turds. I unfortunately will trash a Linlin, give this a bump, draw 2, resolve the attack. They'll send another 8. I'll counter with a 2 and a 1. Yep. Counter with a 2 and a 1. Resolve that attack. Use the action. Alright, well, I have a Luffy. That's nice, at least. What do I grab? I won't be able to use the when attacking of either of the Luffys. But I will at least... Well, do I even want this Luffy? Because I have the bodies on board. I don't want this Luffy. I will just grab a giant. And honestly, I will place these at the bottom. I don't really want any of these at this point in the game. Alright, I drew a 2k at least. That's nice to see. And let's start with... That's not what I meant to do. Alright, well, we made a mistake. But might as well commit. Send 9. And then... Send 9. The opponent's just gonna take, like, all of this, aren't they? Send 9. Just gotta hope, honestly. Okay, they're taking a lot. That's... I mean, at least that's something. They're good at... What do they get? What do they get? They got a Kiku. Or Kiori. Jeez, what am I saying? Let's go another 9. They at least have to counter with a lot of cards. That's that's the one thing. They have to block with a lot of cards. Oh, sorry. Cancel. And the opponent might block with this Borso. That's something to think about. The opponent might block with the Borsalino, and if that's the case, that's nice, because that's one less body that they can attack with next turn. Because I think next turn, if they have these 3 Robins and the Borsalino and Nami, I don't think there's any way I can live. They took it. Okay. 1, 2, 3. I'll have 2 Dawn up. That's kind of what I want. Let's send 9. Is the opponent just bricked out? There's no way. They have 9 cards. I'm just gonna go 9. Have up the 2 Dawn. And just, you know, try to live for another turn. Yeah. I mean, there's no way that they don't have the counter in that hand. In 7, it was 9 cards, but yeah. I have 2 Dawn up. That's the thing. I have 2 Dawn. So I can use a Giant. I can use, hopefully, something like a Gear 2 that I draw off the top. And I have this Otam in the counter with for 2. Shoot. I don't want to. But I'm going to. Select 2 Dawn. Trash Hits to die for. Give that a 4K bump. I draw... Hey! Gear 2. Okay. That's nice to see, actually. And I have a 2K and a 1K. There is hope. There is hope. There is hope. There is hope. I might be able to live, actually. And I can win. Against yellow. The probably worst possible, you know, color for this kind of a deck to go up against. Oh my god, if I win, I'm gonna lose my mind. There's no way that the opponent... There's no way. I'm gonna win somehow. I'm gonna somehow be able to win. I somehow am going to win. How is this possible? How is this possible? The opponent, granted, they have 10 Dawn. Depending on where they put that Dawn, I could still lose this turn. But I have 1 Dawn. Okay, the opponent's sending 8. I can't lose this turn now. Oh my god. And I mean, if they go into board, that will really suck. But I have a 2K and a 1K to use. Yep, okay. I will protect. And the opponent can kill 1 card of their choosing. Which does... God damn it, I forgot that this card existed. Are you kidding me? They gained another life. And they have a blocker. Oh my god. But... They're going to send 8 into 8. Okay, let that die. They have 1 Dawn. Let's use the ability. Okay. I'm going to try to keep as many Dawn as I can to where if I need to play these 2 Nami blockers, I can. So I'm going to go like this. Place on top. Go like that. This Roger would be nice, but at the same time I don't need it. I have these just in case. Let's begin the onslaught. Let's start off with 9. See, this is the way I look at it. The opponent has a Marco to block with. Okay, they have 5 cards in hand and 1 blocker, kind of 7 cards in hand. So, there is still a chance that they can lose or win and live through this turn, but, okay, they block there. I don't think there's any way. Yep, they lose. Oh my god, I won against a Nami deck. How is that possible? How is that possible? Oh my god, with 2 life left on top of that. Robin, oh my god, this card is so horrifying. 3 Robins. 3 Robins. Yes, they never used a Nami. I get that you all think, oh, they never played a Nami. 3 Robins. 3. 3 of them. Holy crap, that was insane. Wow. That is something special. That is something very, very special. Alright. Let's get into the final game, see what happens. Okay. I get to decide again. I don't know if Bonney wants to go first or second, but I'm gonna go second. Alright, I have a ramp piece, worst case scenario to use, and not necessarily what I want, but at the same time, it is definitely not the worst, so I'm gonna keep that. I don't have a Sanji, which is unfortunate, but I have a ramp that I can play on too, and I have a Lin that I can play on turn 2, I mean. And a Lin that I can play on turn 3. And I don't want to use these Otamas. Definitely not going to use those Otamas. What they get off of that? They got a Nami. Of course they did. I'm just gonna end the turn. I don't want to use either of these Otamas right now. I don't want to play them. I want to keep them for counter for as long as I can. So, Bonney is pretty absurd and insane, because a 9k leader is pretty nuts. Alright, back to my turn immediately. Let's just go ahead. Unfortunately, use a gear 2. Yes, use the card action, gain Arrested Dawn. Do I bluff? Or do I try to go for 7? They're probably going to take it anyways, because that's how the deck works, so I would rather bluff. A 1-cost counter event. Are they going to counter? Okay, for a second I'm like, are they going to counter? Yeah, they're not going to counter that Swain. There's no way. I'm surprised they didn't use their leader ability last turn. They're probably going to this turn. Okay, so they're sending 6. I will counter with 1 Nami. I want to keep my... The fact that that's nuts to me. That they're not playing a Nami this turn. That's nuts to me. Yeah, in that case, I'm definitely going to defend my life hard, and for as long as I possibly can, because they're already at 3 life. They're sending 6 again? Right, I'm half tempted to take this, but at the same time... No. Yes? I'm going to take it. I know that's kind of crazy. I know it is, but I'm going to take it. Alright, so I can send 6... Yeah. 6 into Sanji. No way they're going to defend that. Yeah, so they have 8 cards. They have 8 cards in hand, which is insane. But, okay, Lin. That's unfortunate. Let's put a Otama on top. Gain a Dawn. Pass. So they have 6 Dawn? 7 Dawn. They have 7 Dawn now. Alright, they're playing the Zoro. Woo. Crazy, though. Counter. Definitely want to counter everything I can at this point. This Zoro... You can't attack this turn. I don't know what the opponent's doing. Are they deciding if they want to use the Bonney ability? Okay. Use the action. Yes! I got the thing! Alright, let's... They know that I'm going to play the Sanji this turn. I'd like to keep this giant secret. So let's grab a Sanji. Place like this. Have the 2 and the 1. Return like that. And let's go 7 in the life. See what the opponent does there. Alright, they counter for 1. Makes some amount of sense. But at the same time, they're being really tanky, which is weird. This deck kind of wants to get to 9, because you're going to chain Zoros every turn, as quick, or just stuff in general that's going to make your leader a 9. I don't know, it's weird, it's interesting. Play the Roger. Send 8. Now my leader's an 8, and you are going to have a wonderful, fun time with that. I hope. The fact that you have 9 cards in hand, though, is kind of scary. Which sucks, because I'm not playing Pudding. Because, I mean, I'm predicting that Pudding's going to get banned. I know that, like, might not be the most popular idea in the world, but I just kind of... I both am coping for the fact that that card gets banned, and just kind of believe that there is a likelihood that that card will get banned. I also think that there is a likelihood, yep, 9 into 8, I will counter for... Do I want to... I kind of want to keep these Usohachi, so I'll counter with an Otama. Because in case if they just spam Borsalinos near the end of the game and I need to go for game, I'd like to keep those Usohachis for as long as I can. Alright, what's the opponent going to do? They have 9 Dawn. What do they have that costs 9 Dawn? Does that Secret Luffy cost 9 Dawn? I know it costs 10, but it can... Yep, it can become a 9. If you have 1 or less life, that's how. Yep, so your leader's now going to be a 9k on my turn, which is insane. This is a 12k blocker, and they are probably... Well, they are going to swing into that. That's interesting. I'm definitely going to protect that, though. Resolve that attack. I'd like to keep my big boys for as long as I can. I can play another Roger this turn. I like that. Let's grab a Nami. Yeah. Place on top in this order, because I want to just chain Rogers for as long as I can. Leader's a 9, which is crazy to me. So let's put... They can just block for free is the problem. But they don't know that this is the only swing I'm going to send this turn. So I'm going to try sending an 11 and see if they try to defend and think that, oh, they have 9 Dawn, I might not block. Or they think, are they tempting up? Yes, they are countering. Okay, I love to see that. Love to see that. I get that this is up now, that the opponent can attack, and that's unfortunate, but it's fine. Because I can do that. I can send in a big boy. I probably should have sent something into Zoro, realistically, but they probably would have blocked more than likely, and I'd like to get cards out of their hand. So let's pass a turn there. Because they were a 9, this wouldn't have mattered. Yeah, okay. So they have 1 life, but they are basically going to be a 9k for the rest of the game. Are they going to Borso? I have no idea. That card should be locked to Egghead only leaders. Even then, it should be locked to frickin' Vegapunk. Just Vegapunk. Yeah, okay. I'm 1000% countering. No way I'm not. I am going to protect my big cards for as long as I can. Because I might be able to win next turn, which is crazy to say. Let's do that. Select 2 Dawn. Trash a Nami. Give that a bump. I have a 2 and a 1. Or I have 2 2s. And then big ol' Nami. Yeah, or Bonney. And of course, double. God damn it! Freaking 2 Borsalinos? Are you kidding me right now? I mean, at least Bonnie's only a 7 this turn, but Jesus. Oh my god. And what do I freaking do here? I kind of just want to take the Usohachi and bottom deck the rest of these, maybe? I might just bottom all of these. I have a 7, a 9, a 10, a 10, and then my leader. I kind of would like to swing for Luffy this turn and have a really big board, because there's no way I'm going to be able to kill him this turn. Let's grab a Luffy. I can't bounce anything back, which sucks. I'm just going to try to whittle down their board, honestly. So I'll grab a gear 2 and place these on bottom. I know that sounds crazy to some of you, but I just kind of think I need to do that. And that's a Graphy Blade. I can bottom deck both of those. That's actually really big. Let's do that. Bottom deck those 2. That's awesome. That is awesome. In case I, like... No. Let's just go... Oh! Bonney isn't even at 1 life. Alright. Then in that case, let's just send 7 into 5. See how that goes. And then, oh, trigger. Is it RY Quasar? Well, no, there wouldn't even be anything in there. Yeah, okay. 7. And then 9, 10, and 10. Okay, now there's a trigger. Was that the trigger? I have no idea what that... I don't know if that was a trigger or not, honestly. I wasn't really paying that much attention, which is... that maybe not great. But yeah, 9 into 7. Demand more cards from their hand. Their board state, well, yes, it's a 12k and a 9k. It actually ain't that good. That actually ain't that good. And I might... probably... oh... so there's only one Borsalino they'll probably see for the rest of the game, and it's probably in their hand. So let's send... do I go 10 into 9? No, no way, right? They have a 2k. Let's try to get rid of this Zoro. Let's try to get rid of this Zoro. 10... put a Dawn under. Send 11 into 9. Yes! I know that might... That was the right play. What am I saying? That was the right play. Because now all they have is a 12k. They can't I mean, they could get rid of a thing on my board. I'm not saying that there's no way that they're going to be able to get rid of anything on my board. They can get rid of something on my board. But they won't be able to get rid of 2 things. I highly doubt it. And they concede. Whoo, baby! UP Luffy is broken. It's busted. It beat 2 yellow decks. It beat a yellow deck that played 3 Nico Robins. And it beat this yellow deck Bonney that played 2 Borsalinos. I mean, my god. It's insane. It's insane. This deck's goated. Best deck in format. Best deck in format. Doesn't lose to anything. Oh my god. Most underrated deck in the history of One Piece. This deck is absolutely insane. I cannot believe it. I hope that you all enjoyed this video. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. It's completely free. You won't regret it. Build yourself a UP Luffy deck because of every Luffy deck in this game, it is the best. It is the most fun, and it's purple. So it's got to be, you know, the best deck in the game, right? Not a different purple deck like an L, right? But anyways, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. It's completely free. You won't regret it. Check out my other EBO3 videos right here. Check out my pack opening series right here. And I will see you all next time.